My name is Christine Andrews. I'm 67 years old, and last Christmas, I turned off every faucet of money I'd left running for my son's family for 6 years. It started with a phone call. My son picked up, laughed, and told me I had the wrong house. Then he forgot to hang up. I sat in my kitchen, coat still buttoned, coffee going cold, and listened to a woman's voice say something I will carry the rest of my life. She thinks the money she sends buys her a seat at the table, and canceled every transfer I had ever set up for that family. By morning, I had 25 missed calls. Not one of them remembered the note still sitting in a courthouse file with my name on it. Before I tell you what I did next, please hit like and subscribe. Drop your city and local time below. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back to the year my husband died, when a green ledger taught me something I didn't fully understand until this Christmas. Robert died on a Tuesday in March, 31 years ago. Heart attack, in the parking lot of the hardware store. He was 39, I was 36. Tyler was 9, Grace was 6. I had never paid a bill in my life without asking him first. Not because I couldn't. That was simply how we'd built our marriage. Then, in one afternoon, I had a mortgage, 2 children, and a checkbook I didn't know how to balance. The smell of that first winter is still with me. Burnt coffee and pencil shavings. Because I studied at the kitchen table every night after the kids were asleep. I took a bookkeeping job for $9 an hour. I enrolled in night classes 2 nights a week, then 4. 8 years late, I passed my CPA exam in a testing center in Columbus, my purse full of pencils, my stomach full of nerves. 6 months after that, I opened Andrew's Bookkeeping and Tax in a strip mall beside a dry cleaner. I kept it running 23 years. The very first entry in my green ledger wasn't a client invoice. It was $4, a grocery shortfall the week after Robert's funeral, borrowed from a neighbor, paid back exactly to the penny I promised myself that week. I'd never again be a woman who owed something she couldn't account for. I've been accounting for things ever since my mother left me her china, blue and white.
A wedding gift from 1958. Most people keep china like that behind glass, saved for company. I never did. We ate meatloaf off hand-painted plates on ordinary Tuesdays, because I never wanted my children to think love was something you saved for special occasions. Why do we use the fancy plates on a regular day? Tyler asked me once, maybe 10 years old, grass stains still on his knees from practice.
Because the good china is for who you love, I told him, not for company. He didn't understand it then. I'm not sure I fully understood it myself. I only knew I'd grown up in a house where the china came out twice a year, gleaming and untouchable, and I'd hated how it made ordinary days feel like they didn't count. Every Sunday for years, that china sat on my table for 4. Then, much later, for 6. I couldn't have told you then how much I'd come to miss the sound of those plates being set down for no reason at all, except that we were together. Tyler married a woman named Madison when he was 31. Her mother, Diane, arrived at our first dinner in a cream coat and a smile that took my measure before it took my hand. She touched the corner of a table runner I'd hand-stitched for the evening. "How resourceful," she said, and turned the word into an accusation. Her husband Richard talked 11 straight minutes about a new car lot he was opening. Nobody asked him a single question the whole time. I didn't say anything to Tyler. He was happy. I told myself that was the only column that mattered. I gave them $15,000 toward the wedding. No conditions. 3 years later, they were $80,000 short on a house in Millbrook. I had it. I'd built a life around having it for exactly this kind of moment. But something in me, some old, careful part shaped by 30 years of other people's books, made one phone call before I made the one to my son. "You're going to lend it, not gift it," Barbara Collins told me. She'd been my closest friend for 35 years, a real estate attorney. Tyler and Madison signed at the title company on a Thursday in matching folding chairs, reading every page. Nobody in that room thought it was anything but a formality, a second deed of trust,
recorded at the courthouse, a 5-year balloon note. None of us imagined it would be the only thing standing between me and being erased from that family entirely. The Christmas after their first son was born, we gathered at my house, same as always. The Christmas after that, Diane mentioned, almost in passing, that the lake house had so much more room for a baby to crawl around. I didn't argue. I packed a casserole and drove 90 minutes instead. By the time their daughter was born, Christmas at my house wasn't a question anyone asked anymore. It was simply somewhere we used to go. I boxed up my mother's china that year. A table for two doesn't need 12 place settings. There is a particular kind of quiet in putting dishes away that nobody's coming to eat from. I kept sending money the whole time, $600 a month toward my grandson's tuition, cash at Christmas, a check for my granddaughter's dance costume. I stopped counting, even in my own head, because keeping score on your grandchildren felt like something I didn't want to become. Diane's comments kept coming, small, precise, about my car, my haircut, the fact that I still worked past retirement age, as though 23 years running my own business were something to apologize for. I told myself it was just Diane being Diane. One comment, easy enough to let go of on its own. I've since learned that's what a family calls it when they've quietly decided where you rank, and they're hoping you're too polite to add it all up at once. That's the word they use for everything that used to be love. Convenient, convenient timing, convenient location, convenient to have me nearby, in exactly the amount they needed, and not 1 inch further. I didn't have proof of anything yet. I only had a feeling. And 30 years of bookkeeping had taught me that feelings without numbers are just gossip you tell yourself. So I watched, I waited, I kept the green ledger exactly the way I always had, quietly, without accusation, because a woman who stops paying attention to her own accounts is a woman someone else has already decided to spend. By the second week of December, I still hadn't heard where Christmas would be. I wrapped the presents anyway, a telescope for my grandson, who'd been asking about the moons of Jupiter since September, a dollhouse for my granddaughter, with a working front door on real brass hinges I'd ordered special from a shop. In Michigan, I set them by the door, ready to drive over the moment somebody told me where over was. This year Christmas morning, I texted Tyler, "Merry Christmas, sweetheart, let me know the time." No answer by noon, none by 3. By 6, I'd eaten a sandwich standing at my own counter, still in my good sweater, the presents stacked by the door like guests who'd been stood up. At 7:15, I told myself, right up until it started ringing, that there had simply been a mix-up. That's the story I chose to believe. The other one hadn't occurred to me yet. Tyler picked up on the 4th ring, a crowded room behind him, glasses clinking. "Sorry, Mom, wrong house this year," he said. Fast, careless, like brushing off a stranger at the wrong doorbell. The line didn't disconnect. I heard him laugh. That same easy laugh from the next room when he was 9 and I was doing dishes. Then a woman's voice, low and pleased with itself, said something I couldn't fully catch, and my son repeated it clearer, like a joke worth savoring twice. She thinks the money she sends buys her a seat at the table. More laughter, eyes against glass. Nobody on that end of the phone knew I was still listening. I sat very still, the wrapped telescope by the door, my coat still buttoned to the collar. I let the call run 11 more seconds before I hung up. I didn't cry. I opened my laptop instead. One by one, I logged into every account where I'd ever set up automatic help for that family. The tuition transfer, the standing gift to their savings, the small monthly cushion nobody had ever asked me. Pour out loud, I turned off every faucet I'd ever left running for people who didn't know I was still in the room. I did not touch the one transfer that actually mattered. I hadn't remembered it yet, neither had they. That was Barbara's note, the second deed of trust, recorded at the courthouse 8 years earlier, sitting quietly in a file with my name on it,
waiting for exactly this kind of morning. I slept, if you can call it that, and woke to 25 missed calls. 14 from Tyler, 6 from Madison, 3 from my daughter Grace, and 2, at 7:52 and 7:58, from a number I didn't recognize at all. I made 1 cup of coffee. I let it finish brewing before I picked the phone back up. I opened the green ledger that night and added it up for the first time in 6 years. 15,000 for the wedding, 80,000 for the house, 18,600 in tuition, and underneath all of it, unmentioned by anyone in that family for 8 years, 1 balloon note, due in full, with interest, in 11 months. I called Barbara the next morning. She'd kept a copy of that note in her own files the whole time, the way she kept everything, quietly, correctly, without being asked twice. You never defaulted them on purpose, she reminded me. You simply stopped extending grace they never knew they were receiving. The note stands on its own, recorded, valid, and due. She explained it to me the way she explains everything, plainly, so I could repeat it back if I ever needed to. When a balloon note comes due, the borrower has to refinance, sell, or pay in full. If they can't do any of the 3, the lien holder has options. You are the lien holder, Christine. You always have been. 2 days after New Year's, Tyler called with an apology that arrived wrapped around a request. He needed help. A short-term loan, just until things settled. And then spend considerable energy making sure you never hear it again. I sat alone that evening at my own kitchen table, the green ledger open, the house so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum. I almost picked up the phone to call Tyler and say everything. The wrong house, the laugh, the line I would carry the rest of that winter. I wanted, more than anything, to hear him say he was sorry and mean it before any of this went any further. I wish this were different. I wish Tyler had been the kind of son who would have called first instead of last. I wish he had simply asked me to Christmas dinner instead of forgetting to hang up the phone. But wishes don't hold up a house. A recorded deed of trust does. I cried that night, not from weakness, from clarity. There is a particular grief in finally understanding exactly how much you were worth to someone once you finally have the number in front of you. 11:50 that night, Barbara and I spoke by phone one last time before the balloon note's due date arrived. You don't have to forgive them tonight, she said. You only have to protect what's yours. Those are 2 separate decisions, and only one of them is due in the morning. I signed nothing that night. There was nothing left to sign. The note had signed itself into existence 8 years earlier, in a title company office, in matching folding chairs, while everyone in the room thought it was only a formality. All I did was send 1 email to Barbara confirming that I would exercise my rights as lien holder exactly as the law allowed, effective the note's due date, unless a full and honest conversation happened first. Understood, Barbara wrote back. I'll have the paperwork ready either way. Alas dos tres nu umaga, I am 67 years old, I am a widow, a mother, a CPA of 23 years, and, as it turned out, the only adult in that family who had read every page before she signed it. Across town, in a house I had once driven 90 minutes to reach every Christmas, Tyler and Madison were asleep, still believing the only debt in this family was the one they thought they'd inherited from me. He would find out otherwise in about 11 months. Diane would find out sooner than that. The call came in October, not from Tyler, but from Madison. Their lender had denied the refinance. They were $80,000 short, again, on the same house, with a note now legally due in full. Diane called me directly this time, the same number Grace had recognized months earlier. Her voice, for the first time in 9 years, had no contempt in it at all. She asked, carefully, whether there was any way I might simply forgive the note. For the grandchildren, she said, for the family. I'll think about it, I told her, the same 3 words I'd given my son 10 months earlier. Then I called Barbara and we structured a repayment plan, fair, enforceable, and entirely on my terms. Not forgiveness, not punishment, simply the truth, finally written down where everyone could see it. Tyler looked at me the day we signed the new agreement, like I was still the person he thought I was. I wasn't. I hadn't been for 10 months. I was the woman who had quietly kept the paperwork all along, while everyone else had been busy deciding I didn't belong at the table. I used to tell my son, over meatloaf on my mother's good china, the good china is for who you love, not for company. I always thought I meant something simple. Don't save the nice things for strangers. I understand now. I also meant something harder. Love that only shows up when it's convenient isn't love, it's company. Wearing love's good coat. Diane still calls me now and then, carefully, politely. The Whitfield lot never reopened. Tyler pays what he owes, on time, and calls before Christmas now, not after. Grace still tells me everything, the way she always should have. Barbara retired last spring, and I still send her a card every year with 2 words on it, thank you. As for me, I still have the green ledger, page 42, long since filled in, and every page after it, I still use my mother's china on ordinary Tuesdays. My grandson got his telescope, eventually, and last month he asked if I'd help him find Jupiter's moons from my own backyard. I think about Robert every time those dishes come out for no reason at all, except that someone I love is sitting across from me, and I think, the table was always mine to set. I only forgot, for a little while, that I never needed anyone's permission to sit at it. If you've ever had to quietly protect what was yours, even when it cost you people you loved, I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments. And if this one moved you, subscribe to Dad's Revenge Tales. There are more to come.